I was in bed, asleep in California. Keep in mind that I had watched in Southern California planes fly through a route into Orange County Airport on a regular basis. And I was awakened by my wife saying, "You got to see this." And I went down and I watched television. And that's when I saw what would become 9/11. 2 jets blowing up inside the World Trade Centers. It was an odd day because I remember that rest of that morning going out in my backyard when I was used to seeing the plane flights. The sky was empty. Eerily empty. It was odd. It was off-putting. Something was wrong. Little did I know that that was just going to be the beginning of everything about America that I had taken for granted. That it was safe, that it was easy, that we could count on everything happening pretty normally, pretty regularly, every day. I didn't know that that was going to change forever, and I certainly didn't know that was just the catalyst for everything else 22 years later that has happened in the interim. And so on this special day, maybe the last time I can remember, all Americans of all colors and stripes and political persuasions, just for a brief second, for the last second, we were one. We stood together hand to hand, hands on hearts. Flags couldn't get out fast enough and stay up. God Bless America was sung at the 7th inning stretch in baseball games, and it would continue. But America that I was comfortable with and used to was gone forever. This is the 22nd year of that remembrance. So we're going to talk about it on Brad Stine Has Issues, among other things. Yeah, we want to have fun, and yeah, we want to be entertained, interact, and be grateful that we're still here able to communicate freely amongst fellow Americans. And so, I'm going to utilize that First Amendment right that still is hanging by a thread, as far as we know, to start my 7 p.m. Central Standard Time Facebook, YouTube Live podcast, known as Brad Stine Has Issues, and Do I Ever? And we're going to talk about some of those issues today. And you're going to be with me on the ride. And today, let's talk about what we were, where we are, where we're going. And hopefully, let's even see if we can find a few laughs along the way. Ain't going to be easy. It's a sobering day. But we're Americans. Let's act like it for one small window of time on a Monday evening. But we can't really start the program without the entrepreneurial spirit of a fan that reached out and said, "I'd love to write you a theme song." He handed it to me. He didn't hand it to me. He sent it on the email. But I received it, sent it to Wyatt. He put it into our little computer. And now it lets everybody know that the show is officially starting. If it's your first time, it's a music that sounds a little bit like this. It is God's comic, Brad Stine. This is, in fact, Brad Stine has issues where comedy, conservatism, and Christianity collide. In a cacophony of clarity, I am God's comic, Brad Stine, and on the other side of the mic, on the other side of the camera, the guy running the buttons, the guy keeping the show in tatters, but held together by duct tape and spit. I give you Wyatt Leroy Stine, my son who issued from my loins. Wyatt, how are you?
I'm pretty good, but we ran out of duct tape. I'm using that painter's tape stuff that barely quantifies, and it's falling apart.
You understand that the painter's tape is simply to mask off areas so you can paint in between and not get it overlapping onto other colors. So it's not really good, doesn't stick well. It's designed to be able to peel off and on. Duct tape is designed to stay on for eternity. You understand that, right? You understand the mummies from Egypt are wrapped in duct tape. That's why that has lasted so long.
Oh, I thought they were wrapped in medical gauze to try to save their lives, because medicine back then was just that bad.
Well, it was bad, but no, they needed a way to keep the tape alive because they figured in a couple thousand years people are going to dig us up. I don't know that they saw that coming, by the way, when they tenderly put these sacred pharaohs who they thought were gods, wrapped them up. I don't know they knew we were going to start busting into their graves and looking at them and saying, you know what the best thing to do with these dead guys are? What's that? Why don't we put them under glass, stick them in the museum, have people stare at them? I don't know if I'm on my deathbed and I'm gasping for that final breath on this earth that I'm thinking, I hope someday people get to stare at me while I'm a dried up, dehydrated corpse, Wyatt.
Well, yeah, I listen, if you don't want us to stare at your mummified corpse, don't have a gravestone that's literally a wonder of the world. That's just going to attract people, you know?
I think that if you're trying to tell me that the pyramids, the last resting place allegedly for the pharaohs, might have been what we would call, when it comes to headstones, over the top, I think the Egyptians have hands down won that race.
Absolutely.
Now, Wyatt, you have been coughing the last few weeks. It sounds like you've gotten a little handle on this, some magic potion, some kind of special incantation. What is it?
Cough suppressants. Lots and lots of cough suppressants.
You know, that's filled with chemicals that allow you to get confused. I noticed you were walking into walls a few times, hallucinating.
I'm always doing that.
I heard you waking up in the night screaming numerous times. Is it from the syrup?
No, that's just my weekly night terrors. We all get them, right?
No.
Oh, well, I'm gonna do something about that then.
So you do get a lot of night terrors?
I mean, at this point, I'm used to them, so they're more night nuances.
How about night annoyances?
I think they're a little bit past that.
Okay.
They still do, you know, more than annoy.
Yeah, fearful, scareful. It's, you know, nobody wants...
Whoa, no. Like, when you have a nightmare, the worst part of it isn't the fear factor. It's the immediate, like, second-hand rush of knowledge that, oh, shoot, I have to fall asleep again. It was so hard the first time.
Do you ever fall back into the nightmare and relive it in all its horror?
No, I've never done that, and I'm so glad, because I don't know why, but I have always had the weirdest nightmares. Like, when I say weird, I mean no part of that what I experienced should in any capacity be scary.
Really? So
and
you're
yet,
saying
for
that...
some reason, my mind's just like, no, that's the scariest thing you will see all week.
And yet it's just odd. It's not really, if you really analyze it, like that really wasn't that frightening.
It's like,
not a clown with a saber and blood with and a wicked smile painted on.
Look, how about an example, okay? So, one of my most vivid nightmare memories, I'm in this room, okay? It's like a giant warehouse.
Okay.
And there was only two things that I can see. There's a door, like a wooden, like oak door.
Okay.
And then right next to it is a sticky note with a smiley face on it. Like, you know, two dots in a mouth.
I'm familiar with the smiley face. You didn't have to elucidate.
Well, because, like, there's different types of it.
Okay.
I'm talking about the most bare bones, simple one.
Okay.
So I go in through the door, and there's nothing, just nothing at all.
You open the door.
Yeah, I open the door. I
and
go
you
through
walk
the door,
into
and there's
just
nothing,
pitch black.
Yeah. There's nothing in the door at all.
Okay.
So I'm like, well, this was useless. So I go back into the main room. And now, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
The part that literally terrified me so much that I jolted awake in a cold sweat. I'm not kidding, by the way.
I know. I've had jolt awakes.
The Post-it note had a frowny face. Like, I kid you not, that was it. And I couldn't go back to sleep that night. To this day, I still think to myself, man, I was a wimp back then.
Smiley face, open the creaky oak door, look into the abyss. Nothing. Perhaps I've gotten through this potential horror unscathed. You shut the door, review the smiley face, and now it has a frown.
That literally woke up in a cold sweat levels of terror. And then, like, here's the thing. Sometimes with those nightmares, I will literally, like, after I wake up, I'll try to fall back asleep. And the moment I close my eyes, I keep them closed for like the entire night. Because in my brain, I'm like, the moment you open your eyes, whatever that scary thing was is going to be staring right at you. And then I'm also thinking to myself, but what I saw in my nightmare wasn't scary. So why should I care? No, you have to care. It will get you.
But if you're closed your eyes and it's staring at you, wouldn't you be more vulnerable because now it can stab you, it can use a chainsaw at any moment? Whereas if you open your eyes, you have a chance to sort of navigate how to escape?
I think my brain works off of, like, T-Rex rules, where, like, if I don't see it, it doesn't see me.
So if you put it's the same principle of putting the covers over you and then they can't find you.
Well, no, the covers are an invincible shield against evil. Everyone knows that.
Or if your foot's out of the bed, out of the cover, that's when the hand will grab you and pull you under.
Well, of course, because you're leaving the safety blanket.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure I understood the premise. Listen, I don't want to just leave us there. There's too much at stake here for us for this special day. So I'm going to take a quick peek, see how our people are doing.
But just to let you know, I in college when I was at ETSU, I was in a film class. And one of the assignments was to write a screenplay off of a dream you had.
Yeah.
I picked that one.
Okay.
And the next day, the teacher surprised us with, okay, now everyone share, so I can give you feedback on how to, like, interpret it.
Okay.
And I went to mine, and I told him in advance, this one's going to be weird. He's like, nah, I've heard weird. And then I said it, and then he just looks at me and goes, well, you work on that.
So he didn't really have any kind of insight as to what it really...
I don't think he truly understood when I said it's gonna be weird.
Well, I got to tell you something. That's not that weird.
Really?
No.
Being scared of something mundane isn't...
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, that makes sense. But
you meant his reaction to my...
Yeah, and I got to tell you this, too, though. I think the greatest horror, and I think it's what Stephen King has done great, is finding, and who else prefaced him was Twilight Zone. They made the common mundane frightening, and that was even more frightening because the mundane is almost theoretically possible.
Didn't they have an entire episode devoted to some guy in an airplane getting freaked out by Bigfoot?
Yeah, but he kept landing on the wing, and he would see, but nobody else saw him. And by the way, that was William Shatner who eventually became Captain Kirk. I'm
just saying, mundane, not really the word I'd use to describe that episode.
Right, too. But that one's a little bit tough. But I do need to see who's showing up, if anybody, on September 11th. Nick Kress is watching with you. Now, I got to tell you, that's creepsy. We've said this before. It's creepsy. That is similar to the smiley face ghost frown. He's just watching me. It's not, he was there first. It's not, how are you guys? Matter of fact, he never says I'm here. He just is watching. What would your teacher think of that?
Well, you work on that.
Ashley Haas is here, and you know what she says? And you know, she's always been a woman of a lot of words. It's one of the things about Ashley that's bothered me is she won't shut up. You know what she said, right?
What?
Hi. Yeah, you laugh all you want. Oh, look, Nick Kress shows up. Hello, Brad and White. So now he felt bad or felt exposed and realized perhaps I need to keep my identity neutral. I'm going to say hi as though nothing happened when I was just watching earlier. Karen Boyd's here. She says, hey. Alan Moon. Hello, Brad. I don't know that Alan's been on before. Do you know?
I don't think so. No, I don't recognize that name.
I'd like to think that Moon has been with us, but that's a conspiracy.
Then again, I don't recognize most names.
Paula Faye Marie Rauchi, greetings, Americans. You know, she is a four-named lady and also my
favorite.
Yeah. Louis Leone is there. Let's see. Dusty Wilhelm showed up. James Mills. Hey, Brad. Don't know that he's been on before. Let's see. Karen sticking up for herself. Hi said, hey, Brad White and all. Sean Syriac. Hey, Brad, sorry I missed you last couple of days and I was hunting. I want a volume down. I did not hear the notification. Not uncommon. Brad Signs has issues is reaching such epitome that we are being shadow banned. That proves you're doing something that matters. Jim Brona, somber good evening, Brad and White. It is indeed. Beverly K. Can't wait until the real murderers get their just rewards. That's coming. Angela Winkle, good evening, Brad. Good evening to you. Mike Yurden, don't know him. Rest in peace to all our patriots that died on this day. Glad you're here, Mike. No, I think he's been showing up the last couple of weeks. Let's see. Edward Jaslow, he's been here before. John Travis, I was in the Air Force Base, went into full-on military mode, as you should. Let's see, John Travis. Let's see, Matthew Altazir. He's here. He just gave us a salute and a flag. Let's see. Kirk Dixon. Hey, Brad. Danny Herring. Where's she from?
Canada.
Where does she live?
Underground bunker, unless they've been found out and she has to move.
That's right. You know what she says? Blessings of America on this day, sending love from Canada. God bless you, Danny. Let's see. Patrick Gaynor, inside job 100%. So here comes the conspiracies. Donna Mitchell, hello from Delaware. Clovis Jones, Andy Clovis Jones in Wayne, Michigan. Douglas Kroll says, I'm here. Douglas either stutters or lives in redundancy. Daniel Webb, God bless America. Patrick Gaynor, God bless from BC, Canada. Another Canadian's here with us. Carrie Hathaway, may me never forget. How can we, unless this administration just wipes it from the face of the earth? Matthew Altazir. Let's see. St. Nick got a happy belated birthday from Karen. Just looking to see if there's anybody I've missed that I didn't say hi to. Force Baney. You gotta love it. Let's see. Angela Winkle, a hot toddy would do wonders. Oh, that's for your voice, son. Let's see if I've missed anybody so we can get the show started, but I hate to leave people out when they have the joy of sending their information to us. Let's see. Tencel Sizemore, he just showed up. Heidi Carmichael, we will never forget from Boise, Idaho. God bless America. Yes. All right. Neil Ferris, I think I get everybody. I think I get everybody something.
There was a Roy Kronval who just discovered you the other day.
What was I doing?
I don't know.
Was he looking through my window? What do you mean he just discovered me? Is this guy hanging out with Nick just watching?
Well, probably.
Let me tell you a story, White.
What?
So, when 9/11 happened back in the day, I had some shows booked, obviously. And, of course, I had to travel. And I traveled by plane. I was giving you a chance to participate so you could get some more airtime and some royalties.
No, listen. There was already enough of my voice for this podcast.
Yeah, but at least it's not filled with coughing and emphysema. So
and I'm trying to keep it that way.
Yeah, well, then don't talk as much as you would normally do, even though people seem to love it or just feel sorry for you. But
yes, I know they love it. That's why I want to give them it when it's actually good.
Yeah, well, you're going to, as your teacher said,
good in
have
quotes,
to work
okay?
at it. Yes. Listen, I was having to fly out 4 days after September 11th. Now remember, they grounded everything for, I don't remember now how long. Wasn't that long? Maybe a day, maybe two. That's the difference between handling actual national tragedies where actual Americans actually died and we were actually being attacked. And I think 2 days later, we were back in service, as opposed to the Corona cult where we say, let's shut the earth down and wonder if we should ever return or perhaps just allow humans to die off. They took a different tact 22 years ago, son. They allowed us to re-enter society and see what was what. But here's what was interesting. So 4 days later, I'm flying out. Now, here's the thing. Nobody knew what was going to happen. Nobody knew what was up. Nobody knew what we were dealing with. We just knew that we had terrorists, and they were getting on airplanes, and they were going to try to kill us. So everything was different. I got to the airport. The airport was very dead. A lot of people canceled, didn't want to fly. I wanted to fly. I wanted to go. I was scared because I was like, is everybody going to just start killing us now, blowing us up? We didn't know. But I remember thinking to myself, I have to fly because I have to show, as an American, we won't be stopped by somebody deciding to arbitrarily end our freedom. So I felt like I owed it to servicemen who had died throughout our history, to Revolutionary War heroes who had died, to anyone who had stood up for freedom and free speech and liberty for those who were downtrodden. I felt I owed it to them that I have to get on the plane and be a warrior and take a risk. That's what makes an American. You take a risk. So I got on the plane, and it was very odd because everybody would look at each other. We would sit, and you would look at each other as you're walking down the aisle. And it was almost like people were giving each other the eye, kind of like, you in? If something goes down, are you with it? And we really had this sense of camaraderie, like we're all ready to sink and throw down. It was beautiful. And I flew to Virginia. It was in Virginia. But here was the thing. I'm a comedian, and we had one of those tragic, horrifying things that had ever happened in America happening on our soil. We'd been attacked, and there'd just never been anything like it. And so nobody even knew how to react. And one of the things people were almost wondering was, should we even be at a comedy show? They felt guilty. They felt maybe it was inappropriate, right? So I remember thinking before I went on, this is very challenging because I have to suddenly go up and just laugh and joke like life is what it was like 5 days ago. And it wasn't. Excuse me. And so I thought to myself, how do I do this? I don't even know because people, they don't know how to deal with this. We're just in an odd place. Little did we know 20 years later, we'd be in another odd place and how people would deal with it then. But here's where we were. It was the beginning of the end of our freedoms that we were so used to in America. And I remember thinking to myself, the greatest thing you can do to your enemy, to Satan, who's the ultimate enemy, you can fight them, but they're used to that. You can run from them. They're used to that. You can be in fear of them, or you can try to sound or act or behave or buck up as though you're strong and fearless. But I realized the greatest thing you could do to an enemy to recapture your freedom ground, your liberty, is to laugh in its face. And so I got up on the stage and said to the folks, we're Americans. We're here. We're coming out. It was at a church. We're in a church. We are in our sanctuary. This is a Christian church. Christianity was the foundational religion of the United States of America, period. Not up for grabs, not confusing. Some of the founding fathers weren't what we would call evangelical Christians. That's true. But people forget that there was a couple, 100 founding fathers? Many of them were pastors. There was a church everywhere. You were expected to go to church because we felt like that was good for society. So nobody questioned whether Christianity was the religion of America. It wasn't mandated by law because that's unconstitutional. The First Amendment states, as I said 1,000 times on this show, Congress shall make no law establishing, God, I just blanked on it. Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or forbidding the free exercise thereof. So that was the key. We can't mandate that you have to be a Christian. We can't mandate that you have to be an atheist. We can't mandate a United States church that you have to attend. That's what the Pilgrims were fleeing. That's what the founders were fleeing. Church of England, forced to think and believe and say a certain thing in a certain way. That 1776 thought is what permeated the DNA of America, that created what would become what it meant to be an American, that you would be free to think and speak as you chose. So I got up there and I said, we're going to laugh in his face. And it was like I gave them permission to laugh. And they did. And we had a wonderful show. It was great. It was brilliant. People had a blast. But I gave them permission to say, folks, stand up for something. Stand up for this. This is our chance in real time to say we will not be buckled. We will not be brought to our knees. We will not give up our freedoms. We will not lose to this enemy and its evil. We will stand strong. And for a few weeks, son, we did. For a few weeks, we all believed in America. I remember Rosie O'Donnell, who was always known as a very, liberal at that time, we called him, but left-leaner, hated George Bush. He was the president at that time. And at that moment, he came on, that famous speech where he said, hey, I can hear you, everybody can hear you, and whoever did this is going to be hearing from all of us real soon. And it just galvanized us, and we felt like we're one. And I remember Rosie O'Donnell saying, I'm so grateful that he said that, like she had a leader that made her feel like, because she realized suddenly the freedom that liberals and leftists take for granted, that they're safe to have everybody believe like them and think like them, was in jeopardy. And suddenly she needed conservatives, because we have guns, we believe in freedom, we believe in the First Amendment, we believe in militias to defend ourselves against a despotic government. We actually believe in it and are willing to put it into practice. And because the left is cowardly and does everything by forcing people into their belief system, because nobody would do it by persuasion, because it's such a cancerous hellhole of a belief system. So they have to force it upon us through shaming and all the nonsense of wokeness. And the wokies, that's all they have. If we fight back, they have nothing. They're cowards. They're spineless. They're despicable. So we showed a unity of an America that we had not seen before. And so this gave me hope. This gave me a sense that this is what it looks like. This is what it meant when the Revolutionary War happened and people said, we are one, this is what we'll do. When the Civil War happened, said, this is what we must stand for. The Union must remain. We had a taste of it in real time. It wasn't a myth. It wasn't something we read about. We were living it. And that was exciting. And it was, it gave us hope. It gave us a sense of who we were again, a re-remembrance of what it meant to be American. Because remember, political correctness was really beginning to get a foothold. Started really full blown in the 60s through the Academy, but the 70s it began to sort of find its way around. That's when I wrote the joke about give dolls to boys, they'll play with them, because they felt they were starting to dabble in the gender isn't just something we construct. It's not something that is part of who you actually are, that a boy doesn't actually feel like a boy. He's just taught that through the toys he's given. Of course, it's all BS, but that's what they were trying to inculcate into culture. And then it began to get into the 80s and the 90s, and it started to become much more prolific, this political correctness, PC. And so that was a moment where we retrieved our unity, e pluribus unum, out of many one. We weren't all thinking the same, believing the same, but we believed that ultimately we needed to defend each other as Americans, that freedom. That's what the left has abandoned, because they're communists. They're Marxists, and so they do not want you as a conservative, as a Christian, as a patriot, as a libertarian, as a free man to be free. They want to control you. They want to own you. And many Americans are owned now. They proved it during the cult of Corona, when they did everything they were demanded to do or asked to do by the government and the false CDC, which has abandoned any principles of medical profession, is now completely and utterly fully politicized. It's a joke. Anything the CDC says, you can know immediately is false and to be ignored. This is where we're at. We all know it. I don't have to tell you. You watch my show every Monday. We all know who we are and what's going on, and we fight for those things. But I found it interesting that to laugh at ourselves and laugh in the face of this pain and this difficulty gave us strength and gave us courage and gave us a unity and gave us a human community that we desperately needed. So I thought, in honor of that moment, I didn't want to not be able to laugh and joke today a little bit. Of course, we're going to talk about some other things. We have a perfect guest for us today, for September 11th, somebody that you may have heard of, you may not have. But it is, in fact, a coup tonight on Brad Stine Has Issues, this little pathetic comedian who started on his little pathetic laptop. You will be watching my interview with United States Senator Marsha Blackburn, who's actually a senator for the U.S. and represents Tennessee. She will be our guest tonight. Now, I must tell you, it's a shorter interview. She is in session, so she doesn't have a lot of time, and she graciously gave me 15 minutes. It's going to be the shortest interview I've ever had with a guest, but I took it because, A, I was grateful that she gave me the privilege of interviewing a sitting senator, B, because I wanted to show goodwill and hope to build a relationship where she will come on, hopefully live when she's back in town. I've talked with her husband many times, but never her, and maybe she'll come on set and we'll have more time to speak to a sitting senator. But I'll take the 15 minutes just to get the ball rolling, to prime the pump. So that's who we're going to be talking to tonight. But it's a short interview, so we will be talking between us and doing some other things a little bit prior to that, just to fill some of the time because of the interview so quick. So in honor, in memory of that moment when I said, let's get back on the plane, let's take the risk, and let's laugh at our enemy, I said, let's show a clip of an old comedy routine I did that's talking about technology and cell phones and kids, and let's just have a laugh together and show that on September 11th, as somber and as it should be, as it is, we are Americans, and what those deaths represented was freedom, and this is the price of freedom. So let's honor them by having a laugh and a joke. So, son, if you could, show them a little clip from my comedy concert, God's Comic, that was done a few years ago in Georgia. Have a laugh on me on September 11th. And that's why even our technology, which is a beautiful thing, can be misused for just ourselves and our selfishness. I see it with the kids all the time. See with the kids and their texting. Look at my texting. Look, I'm talking to people. You know, there was a time when you got in a crowd like this, you had to go up and meet everybody, be a community. No, I got my own person right here in my own hand. I don't want you. I just got my texting. And they just are so smug. Look at me. I can text so fast. I can do like 1 billion words a minute. Oh, how did you survive without texting, Father? And I'm like going, hey, you're typing on a telephone. They don't even make typewriters anymore. You're going backwards. Here's how we used to communicate before they put a thinking keypad on a phone. Hello? Yeah, you could actually hear the words. Why? Because I don't want to listen to your stinking conversation. This is what you don't understand, kids. When I was thinking young, we wanted to talk in front of a bunch of people. We could, but you had to do it in a special place called a phone booth. You had to close the stinking door so I didn't have to hear your stinking insipid conversation. And if you had the audacity to want to walk around amongst the rest of us, you couldn't, because we put a leash on it so you couldn't get out of the box. That's what we see all night. Hey, what's going on? What's happening? They invade your space. It's so rude, and they don't even see that. I've seen people in restaurants. What's happening? I don't even see who they're talking to. That's the rule. If I can't see who you're talking to, you can't talk to them. We didn't used to let people have conversations with invisible people. We didn't used to do that. We used to lock you up for that kind of nonsense. I'll get right in front of their face, just stare like this close to them. They'll get all like I'm rude. Hey, what are you doing staring at me? Well, if you can have a conversation with somebody I can't see, I can have a conversation with you in my mind. And talk about lazy. This is what technology can do. Makes you lazy. You'd think you'd be excited and happy and content that you can reach in your pocket, take out a little device, push a couple buttons, and talk to Hong Kong immediately. You'd think that'd be enough, but no. They complain, yes, that's fine, but it's so hard to hold it all the way up to my ear. Do I have to bend my elbow the whole time? Can't we figure out something that just wraps around my ear so it'll just stick inside of my ear, and that way I can walk around and talk to people without anybody having to bother me, and don't have to hold my hand up to my ear, and it works great unless you don't know they have a thing in their ear. Then you think somebody from a mental institution has just walked into the stinking restaurant and he's having a conversation with somebody only he can see. Hey, I'm at that restaurant. Where are you? I can hear you, but where are you? So, as I said, why can't we laugh on this day too? You know, I believe that God is real and that if we do not return to God as a nation, we will not survive. I believe that 100%. And one of the things I love about God is that he said he made us in his image. That means that whatever we have that's innate in as a human, God had first, because he kind of shared it with us, which means God laughs. What do you think God laughs at?
Funny cat videos? Well, I mean, if he gave us it, doesn't it make sense that his sense of humor would be similar to ours, since it's his thing?
But there's so many different types of comedy and humor, and
yeah, and
cultures have different humors.
Yeah, and there's a cat video for each one.
Cat?
Yeah, cat. Come on, the internet loves cats. They're like the poster child of the internet.
Wyatt?
Yeah.
What? I mean, I'm taking a risk, but I got to go. You know me. I'm just this show is about
Are
truth.
we gonna have that rhetoric? The anti-cat rhetoric?
I hate them. Why do I hate cats so much?
Despite everyone else?
Do you like cats?
Yeah.
Do you really?
I really do.
Why?
Guess they look cool.
No. They shed. They make you sneeze. They make your eyes water.
No. They make you sneeze.
This is coming from a guy who spent the last 2 weeks as my sidekick with emphysema. So I think I would really sit this one out if you're going to start making fun of me for my one little allergy, which is cat dander.
You're right. I should.
Hey,
But I
Wyatt,
won't.
wouldn't that be a great name for a cat? Dander? Dander the cat?
Might be a bit on the nose.
Yeah, you might. Well, excuse me. Man.
Oh, okay. Hey, listen. Coughing's my thing. You're on camera. Do something else.
So that's your gimmick?
Well, the whole button busting thing didn't work, so I'm diversifying.
That's true. Well, anyways, here's the thing.
Once again, we are live. Do I need to come over there and do this for you?
No, I need a Heimlich. Here's the deal. Hey, but that'd be a good name for a cat. Heimlich.
You know what?
Because they're always maneuvering.
You know what? Sure, I'll give you that one. Now, please continue whatever your rant is.
Okay, so here's what I was going to get at. I was telling you that 9/11 was something that is sobering. It had a beautiful moment in bringing us together, even though under horrible circumstances. I said, let's laugh and mock their face. But one thing I noticed, and there was somebody that did mention something here earlier, was that it was an inside job. What? Every year when 9/11 comes up, and all year round, if you're married to your mom, which I am, believe it or not. Did I ever mention that I married your mom?
Wait, what?
Yeah, we just did it. We did it on the slide. You
know what? This is big.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. And she had a cat, by the way. She loved cats, and I took care of that real quick. But I said it's either me or the cats. And a year later, when she took me back, I said to myself, that we've never had a cat. We had a dog once, and that dog's no longer with us. But
Remind me.
Poor little Daisy.
It's like every pet we've ever had has died at some point.
Yeah, but nobody died like Smooch.
Okay, Smooch was a bit of an extreme case.
It was, and we'll go down to that another day. I can't.
I mean, hey, at least he didn't die like Max, who died as he lived, being a menace.
Yes, he did indeed. That was our rabbit that my daughter had that ate all the cords in my house.
It growled at me.
Well, he hated
That
it.
was how I learned rabbits growl.
Do you know two things? One, you said grabbits instead of rabbits, and number two, you know why it growled at you? It didn't like you. Do you know why it didn't like you? Because you like cats!
Well, look, first of all, I was not wrong in calling it a rabbit, because that's what I wanted to do with it every time it bit me.
Yeah,
It
but you
growled
were
at me.
scared of it because it would bite on you. But
Also, I really don't think any animal that's about as high up on the food pyramid as like the second brick on a pyramid for an ancient mummy deserves to have the ability to act menacing. Like, my good soul, you are literally one step above a plant.
You've never seen a menacing rabbit?
Oh, okay, fine. I mean, I guess there was one menacing rabbit I can think of, but only that one.
Mm-hmm.
That one.
And who is that menacing rabbit you're referencing?
Oh, the killer rabbit from Monty Python.
Yeah, of course! Yay, son! Nobody can forget the first time the rabbit went leaping over and ripping the heads off of the people from Monty Python and the Holy Grail, probably the funniest movie ever made in human history.
My favorite movie by a long shot.
It's just so good. So dang good. But there's always a conspiracy theory about 9/11 amongst everything else. The one thing about conspiracy theorists I've noticed, Wyatt, and by the way, we've learned a lot by Corona. And one of the things we've learned about Corona, and what it taught us, was many of the conspiracy theories are true. We've learned that. And so I had to reevaluate some of this crazy because suddenly the crazy became reality. So I had to understand and be more sensitive to the fact that maybe there's a lot out there. And then we found out the CIA was involved in killing John F. Kennedy, and that didn't become a story. So that tells you just how deep this darkness is, because nobody cared after we've realized that the CIA needed to be gutted and disbanded. And the fact that I said that means I'll probably be shot tomorrow, and it'll look like I hung myself. But nevertheless, conspiracy theories, I noticed, the one thing that's bothered me the most about them is that they think everything is a conspiracy theory. There's not like one thing that happened in human history that was actually happened the way it did. It was actually a conspiracy. It was actually what really happened was Kennedy wasn't shot by. Come to find out, they were right. He was shot by the CIA, who were the ones, by the way, that invented the term conspiracy theory. But, you know, wasn't Oswald? Well, it was, but it wasn't. And so suddenly that's all about. And suddenly, but then we go on the moon, but that wasn't a true thing. And then suddenly we did this, but that wasn't. So everything is conspiracy to these people. So they live in a conspiracy, which means conspiracy if everything is conspiracy, well, I think guess what that means? Nothing is a conspiracy. It's just true.
Have you ever considered the possibility that maybe everything being a conspiracy is, in fact, the biggest conspiracy?
Yes.
I mean, what better way to distract you from what's really going on in the world than petty arguments about things that totally did happen in the real world?
Yes.
I
The
mean,
greatest
come on, open your eyes,
conspiracy theory of all is the fact that everything is a conspiracy theory, because that is
I mean, they have like 18 different flat earth models, which you would think, if the conspiracy was true, they'd only need one.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I guess they're hedging their bets. Once one is exposed, they need to go another direction.
There are crowdfunding conspiracy theories now?
But there's a couple things about it. I wanted to ask you about it. You're a smart kid, somewhat. You did exude from my loins, so you must have got some of my genius, some of my brains, some of my intellect, some of my looks. They'll never know about your looks.
Well, yeah, but then I get the smart parts.
That's true, too. But here's the biggest part of all that we need to remedy. A couple of the things that they say proves that 9/11 didn't happen, I think can be explained away. One thing they said a lot was that a jet smashing into the Trade Center couldn't melt steel. That steel melts at, like, you probably know, like 1,500 degrees Fahrenheit, I think, or something.
Way hotter than that.
Is it?
Oh yeah.
And that jet fuel only can burn at like 1,000 degrees or some kind of thing.
You see, here's the problem with that conspiracy theory.
Okay.
Those planes weren't just carrying jet fuel.
What else?
They were also carrying whatever chemicals they use for chemtrails. And who knows what temperature that stuff burns at.
I didn't see that one. Yeah, you're probably right. That's a crazy heat. Maybe it didn't burn by the fuel, it burned by the chemtrail vapors. Perhaps. But they say if steel melts at X degree and that jet fuel burning can't, and of course it's catching everything else on fire inside of there, so there's heat, 100,000 degrees, there's 1,000 degrees, 1,000, I don't know, but let's say 1,000. They'll say, but you can't melt steel unless you're at 1,500 degrees, 2,000 or whatever it is. But here's the thing, the steel didn't melt, all it had to do was be weakened to get weakened from its solidity and begin to then the weight begins to collapse on it and it simply gives way. And once it starts, then it's a domino effect and begins to collapse on itself because it didn't melt the steel, it weakened it, which makes sense that it did that. So that is one plausible return to their particular problem with the steel melting. They also would say, and you've seen pictures of the collapsing and puffs of air kind of pop out of the side. So you see, that was a demolition. Now, if you have a demo, have you ever seen them collapse a building, like when they blow buildings?
Yeah, I've seen that.
Okay. And have you ever seen what it takes to prepare that building to do?
It takes like 6 hours of just hundreds of sticks of dynamite in strategically placed locations.
But first, they have to saw parts of the metal out to weaken it, to go into certain, just like when you cut a tree, you chop it like this just to get it angled, and then you cut it that way so it'll fall, right? So you have to cut the steel at certain angles. They know how it's all going to collapse into the proper way because they don't want it to hit the stuff next to it. So you got to cut steel. You have to cut it all over the place. You have to drill holes in the brick, into the cement, into the steel, whatever it is. Place the charges. You have to run all of these wires to a safe spot where it can all be done. If that was done to the World Trade Center, the amount of preparation that would happen, maybe while you're in there running your computer, doing your Wall Street-ness, and a guy walks in and says, "Excuse me, I'm just working a little bit over here. I'm going to paint a little bit, and then I'm going to drill some holes through some of the steel girders and set some plastic exposed." I would think you'd notice.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I know.
And I'm actually thinking about, like, I think it was high school. I had to do a science paper on thermite. And in my research, I stumbled across a conspiracy site talking about how the beams were cut with thermite because they found like residue.
Okay.
And I remember telling my mom about that, and her response was, "That's just a ridiculous conspiracy theory." I wonder what she'd say now.
Little did we know. See, folks, I might even actually have to have a conspiracy corner. My wife, Wyatt, would it be too much to say that your mom is a conspiracy theorist?
You know what? In this specific instance, I don't think that'd be much of a stretch.
No. Is there any conspiracy out there that she hasn't completely bought in hook, line, and sinker? Can you think of any conspiracy that she says that's crazy? Anything.
I'm trying to think, man.
No is the answer.
Every single one I think of is a yes.
I know it. It's crazy. It's great. So I think what we're going to have to do is have an episode where she comes on and begins to elucidate on these conspiracies, and she could just give us the conspiracy theorist's point of view. Now, keep in mind, and this is true, I told you, listen, a lot of it is true. I am now beginning to see the pharmacies that will allow people to die knowing full well that there's going to be lawsuits, and they're willing, if they crunch the numbers, if they know they're going to make $35 billion and they're going to only have to pay out $10 billion in lawsuits, they'll make that. They'll literally let people die. That's true. That's true. I despise Big Pharma. Now, that would have been a conspiracy theory to me 10 years ago, because I remember for years people saying, oh, they've had a cure for cancer for years, but they don't want you to have it because then they can't make any money. That's probably true, because there's no money in curing cancer. There's only money in having it and going through chemo and taking drugs. I saw a woman once say that's kind of organic lady. One of the crunchies, they call them crunchies, I guess, people that are into the organic. And she's like saying, when you go to the doctor, you got a infection or whatever, they give you an antibiotic. They give it to you for what, like a week or two, right? They say you're going to do a regimen, you're going to do 12, knock it out, and you're done. You go in for a statin drug, like I take for my heart condition, because I have a heart disease. They say you're going to take that for the rest of your life. Now, there is ways to healthily eat, and I've changed my diet and tried to do these things, and all these things were available to me had I known how to eat properly, had I known how bad food is in the United States of America. I mean, stuff that we eat in this country, compared to what they will not allow you to eat in Europe, it's humongous. It's ridiculous, the crap we eat. You try to eat healthy in the United States of America. You try to eat healthy and say, I'm going to eat healthy now. There's virtually no restaurant you can eat at. There's hardly any food you can buy off the shelves. You literally can't, because it's all chemical crap, and that's how they make their money. It's real, guys. They want you to be on their medicine so they can make their money forever. That's what the transgender thing is. We want to mutilate you, and you will be a hospital patient for the rest of your dang life, and let's start you at 13 so I get 30 years of this. That's all true. Why? That's the irony. This conspiracy stuff is legit in many ways. But when it came to the 9/11, I just felt some of the things that they were saying is why we think it took place can be plausibly explained away. So the puffs of air that they thought was the beams being exploded would have happened if once you saw the collapsing happen, because it's going to be pushing air pressure. There's lots of air in that. It's just busting it out and pushing air pressure out as it collapses. So I'm just saying that is what would happen if something was beginning to collapse. So it would appear to be an explosion, or it would appear to be. Did you ever see John F. Kennedy, the Zapruder tape, where you actually see the guy's head blow off?
No, I have not.
Yeah, well, it's out there, and you literally
sure it is.
You see John F. Kennedy. He starts like this at first because he got shot through the neck, and he's like, oh, and then next thing you know, his entire front of his head just blows off. And people said, see, it was a conspiracy because somebody from the front had to shoot him because, look, it blew up. Well, that's not how ballistics work. It goes through the back of the head, and then when it comes out the other side, it expands and it blows things out. So that would have been a back shot. So that's just one where people misinterpret the data, not knowing what really is going on, and they're wrong. That's, you blow out the backside more than where the bullet enters. So again, I'm just sort of giving the information that sometimes there are answers, and sometimes just things happen the way they said they did. They just happened that way. I mean, I've seen people talk about how there were photos of the jets and they would look and take a picture and it looked like there was like a missile or a bomb on it. Well, wait a minute. People were on that plane and they're dead. Their relatives are all there. All their names are there. So what happened to those guys? How did they get on a commercial plane and get this thing on there? Nobody noticed. None of the ground crew noticed that. Is it normal, Joe? I've got all the bags set up. We got everything set up. We got the toilet clean. The missile, I'm not used to that. Is that a new thing here that we're doing? How would they not see? So I just feel like that one is going to need a whole lot more of clarity for me to be able to take that to its conclusion. Even the Pentagon, where they said, well, the hole was too small for a jet. Well, the wings were coming off the thing because it came in sideways, knocked the wing off. So really the cylinders went through there, and it kind of was a smaller. So I'm just saying that in this particular case, now I'm not saying the government maybe didn't have some knowledge or somehow allowed it or was so completely incompetent or, God forbid, kind of allowed Americans to be sacrificed on this day so that they could get into the Middle East, get a hold of the oil. Man, I don't know. I do know this. The government is so corrupt in our country, so fully, completely, and utterly corrupt that I got to tell you, son, I wouldn't put it past these people to do that now. And some of them didn't start out corrupt, but once they started having sex with children and then people filmed it and showed it to them and said, now you're going to vote this way, it kind of put people on edge, and they realized that their virtue is no more because they weren't virtuous and they got caught, and then it was leveraged against them. So that to me is part of what we have to grapple with now as Americans. You know, when I told you guys that my little podcast was something that I hoped could actually bring Americans together and help us to try to fight together and feel like a community together, I was serious. And that's why I created the Militia of the Mind. If you're new, the Militia of the Mind is simply a militia given to us by the Second Amendment. It's something you're allowed to do by law and Constitution, to start a militia with guns to defend yourself. You're allowed to do that. It's literally in our Constitution. But I said, you know, let's try to win this without guns. Let's try to not go that direction. What if we outthink them, outpray them, outfight them? What if we mobilize them? What if the people rise up and simply do not just a little Alabama civil rights bus boycott, but do a United States boycott where we will tell you, if you choose a side, Bud Light, we will bury you. You won't exist. We're not giving you a second chance. We want you bankrupt out of existence. And to the suffering of your employees and the CEOs and your stockholders, will make them say to the next guy, don't do that. Just sell it and stay out of it. Be an American. See, that's what it means to be the mighty 10,000. The first 10,000 people that say, I'm going to give you $3 a month, $36 for a year, to join, so that we are this group of 10,000 people from all over. And you know what? There's people that join it. Why? They're from outside the U.S. Because they also realize that if the U.S. goes down, there's not a free land left on this earth that can defend us against China and against the World Economic Forum and its minions. Trudeau being one of the worst. I just say that for Danny's sake, because she's weeping in a corner somewhere in the fetal position, wondering if we're ever going to find her as she's living on moose jerky. Wyatt, have you ever had moose jerky?
No, and I'm still waiting for that one.
Yes!
Where's our food, random commenter whose name I have since forgotten?
Was it Denmark or something?
I think it was Denmark.
Yeah, he was going to send us a can of something. We were going to eat it all live on air.
Like tongue or something?
Liar! Danish liar! Can I say that on TV? Live?
Well, I mean, you kind of already did, so that's kind of a moot point.
Okay. Well, anyways.
But yes.
Sorry,
okay.
Denmark. If you're out there and you're not liars, then my bad. You know, it's a tough day for me. So I just.
I mean, if you're not liars, I mean, if I wish there was a way you can prove it by, like, I don't know, sending us some food in the mail.
Well, it was. I don't remember what it was. It was something very interesting. Some meat. It wasn't that horrible fish stuff that they open in a bowl.
Oh yeah,
it wasn't that. I don't think I could eat
yeah.
that thing.
I don't think it's meant to be eaten. At least not traditionally, quote unquote. Why would you make a food that's not meant to be eaten?
It's rotten, and they do eat it.
No, it's not rotten. Fermented.
Yeah, I think it's rotten. Anyways, here's what I was going to say to you guys. What we're doing is we are trying to grow this into a television program that actually reaches the world. We are looking into other platforms that we will be able to put it on and maybe transfer over. Listen, I got to be honest. I don't know how this has happened, but Facebook has been kind of okay to me. I'm sure I'm shadow banned because a lot of you guys say you don't get your notifications, but I'm still here. I'm still talking. I'm still on live, and I still get to pull it off. So I don't know. Maybe for a second they're trying to be an American, and that's what you need to know if you're new. We differentiate on this program from a citizen and an American. A citizen is someone who uses the rights and the constitutional freedoms given to you to leverage it, to hate this nation and want to destroy it. An American wants to do whatever is necessary, including forfeit their life, to defend it. That's an American. So if you're part of the Mighty 10,000, you're identifying as an American. You're telling the world, I'm one of these people, and this matters to me. And my children and grandchildren may not experience this unless I'm willing to suffer. And that's how anything great has ever happened. There's a cost. We've never had to pay it. We've read about people paying it. It's our turn. And I want you to know, I've said this to you before, but I say it again. I'm not trying to be flippant or do some kind of internet courage that doesn't have real consequences. I don't want to be imprisoned because I am a conservative and a Christian and a patriot. I don't want to be thrown in jail because of that my government has become completely weaponized, politicized, Marxistified, and is now arresting candidates. I mean, come on. Come on. But here's what I'm saying. What if every American, well, it wouldn't be everybody because there's leftists in this nation that hate this nation. They don't deserve to be here. They're not Americans. I never will call them American again. I strip them of the title, and I have a right to because I'm an American. But if the majority of Americans, and I believe that the majority in America are conservative, we could shut down the economy. We could do it. We could, if we all were mobilized and said, we will never shop at Target again, it would go under. We're never shopping Bed Bath & Beyond again when they got rid of Michelangelo. Well, guess what? They're going bankrupt. We're never going to drink a Bud Light again until it doesn't exist. If we all did it, we'd win because we have the numbers. But the mobilization is the difficult part because they control this dissemination of information and they don't let us mobilize. That's why we need to find other platforms. Or Facebook has to be bought by somebody who actually gives us freedom, like allegedly happened to Twitter. I don't know. So I have talked to you guys about the real-time necessity for you to really do things that stand for freedom. And I told you about, and we had on Jeremy Dice a few weeks ago from First Liberty, who will, if you get fired for standing up for your religious liberty, they will take your case if it's legit, and they'll fight for you, and they'll get you your money back, and they will get you your job, and these people will be sued. We still have some means to fight, right? And that's what the militia in the mind is, congregating all these people that can help each other in their specific strengths and their expertise. But the citizen, the peasant's revolt is you. You're the ones that have to fight for these things and stand up and take that hard stand when it's getting rough and things are on the line. It's the only way it can work. They're relying on you to be fearful. They're relying on you to quit. They're relying on you to do whatever they tell you to do. So we need to let them know that we're not going to do it. And one of the ways that we're going to do that is to show that we will, in fact, not comply this next go-round with the cult of Corona because they're trying to do it again. So here's what I want to leave you with. I want to show you a clip of something I did off the cuff, but I liked it enough that I have turned it into a truthache. This is one of my rants that I wanted to do more regularly, and I will. But this truthache is about the idea of what it's going to take for us to be able to maintain our liberties and freedoms, and that is going to be all Americans on board with educating themselves about what is actually true. That's why this conspiracy theory thing I think was so important, because there is moments of conspiracy theory that are true and need to be dealt with and brought to the front, but once in a while there's not, and we have to differentiate from those ideas. If you believe in what I'm doing and believe in what this is, this aggregation, please just go to bradstine.com and subscribe to of the Militia of the Mind. Say, I want to be one of the mighty 10,000. It's very simple. It's your name, email address, $36 for a year. You're in. It's that simple. But it's given us the funding to be able to grow this stuff and put out some of this other information that I'm hoping to do, as well as go out and do live events where you can come and see me there. So this is crucial. And I wanted to show you a little truthache that I put together. I really didn't know I was going to use this. I was going to probably just try to tape one, but I was just out for my walk, because I have a heart condition. And so I walk to try to give myself another day of life if I can. And I started talking about this idea into my phone, and it's like, that's legit. I'm going to use it. So I gave it to my son, Wyatt. He runs the board. He does all the editing, and he's the one that messes everything up. But for this moment, son, did you mess this up, or do you think you actually put it into a viewable vision?
Oh, yeah. The moment I put it into the editing software, I guess it learned its lesson and corrected itself.
Ha-ha!
Like, I literally didn't do anything.
Ha-ho!
I don't understand what magic your phone is running on, but
Hee.
Make it stop.
Take that phone tried to mess me up, Edge, but Wyatt said no, Edge.
I mean, the frame rate still was terrible, and I had to fix it in post. But
Well, so be it, Mr. Frame Rate Complainer. At least you have a frame rate editing software that I paid for out of the donations of these people, so they paid for it. So Karen Boyd should have a bone to pick with you, as well as Forrest Bainey, just because his name's cool.
Actually, it was free.
Nick Kress watches us, Wyatt.
Yeah.
And I thought that my people should watch this version of the next Truthache to show you what I'm talking about when it comes to a vision for the next phase in the Peasants' Revolt. Wyatt, if you would, and if you can find that button without coughing or sneezing or soiling yourself.
Cough.
Just run the Truthache. I have a question for you, America. Are you stupid? How dare you say such an insulting thing? You see, even bringing up a question in America now can be insulting. So maybe this is a great time to examine why America is dying. One of them is our inability to communicate and people's inability to hear reality. So before we consider that calling somebody stupid is an insult, perhaps we first need to define the word. You see, the reason that we have the word stupid is because some people are. We wouldn't have needed the word if there was no one it applied to. Kind of like the word ugly. We don't need the word ugly unless ugly existed. We don't need the word stupid unless it exists, and we can locate it and avoid it. First definition of stupid is uneducated. Second is unteachable. The truth is, there are uneducated people. It doesn't make you bad. It's not an insult. It's simply true. And here's the good news. If you're uneducated, you can fix that. Educate yourself. But if you are unteachable, it is bad, because you'll never have access to reality. And that is a tragedy. When I was growing up, people actually used to wear rabbit's feet, and they said it was lucky. Yeah, I've got my rabbit's foot. It's luck. Do you hear what I said? Human beings in the 20th century would cut off the foot of a rodent, hang the decaying limb around their neck, and say, this gives me luck. It might you, but I'm thinking the hobbled rabbit, not so much. We also have people who have believed in voodoo, or people who believe that a four-leaf clover would give them luck. It's a talisman. It's magic. It's something that people would do to help them feel better about themselves and safe. In 2020, Americans were told to wear a 55-cent facial mask to keep them from getting this horrible virus that was going to devastate humanity. 3 years later, we now have over 171 separate scientific studies that examine the effectiveness of masks, either giving or receiving corona. And of those 171, all reached the same conclusions. They didn't work. This isn't right-wing rhetoric, nothing that Trump said, and it's not a Republican talking point. It's science. They didn't work. Now, if you wore some hardcore painter's mask around, yeah, you'd probably have less spittle flying around, and maybe you'd keep something from getting you. But if you think a tiny virus floating around the world, while your eyes are wide open, your skin is wide open, your skin is wide open, you touch and feel and grab and touch, and that this little thing around your mouth, most of which people would not even wear it around their nose because it was uncomfortable, is going to protect you. You are stupid. You're uneducated or unteachable. Rumor has it now that they're going to redo masks. Last time we did masks, I didn't do it. I walked through Chicago Airport in 2020 without a mask, thinking I would inspire Americans to grasp their liberties, their First Amendment rights. I was wrong. They are in fear, and they cared little about reality. Well, now we know. If they reinstate masks, this has nothing to do with public health. This has to do with training you to no longer value your freedom and your liberty. That's simply what's happening. So if you wear a mask now, we will not point our fingers and scream at you for killing democracy. Like you used to scream at us, you're killing grandma. We're not going to scream at you and say you're killing liberty. We're not going to say that you shouldn't have a job because you're not wearing your mask or taking our little vaccine. We're not going to say that to you, even though you said it to us. And we're not going to say you shouldn't be able to travel or enter another country by wearing your mask. The reason we're not is conservatives don't steal freedoms, only the left. So we will not treat you the way you did us. The hard part for us will be to keep from laughing in your face, because we are literally watching a grown adult with his poor children walking around stupid. I'm going to ask you to decide once and for all, this next round, to make a choice. Are you going to be a citizen of the world, disbanding our liberties and our Constitution and freely bringing the shackles of your slavery to some bureaucrat to rule you and your family? Or will you finally decide this time to identify as an American? Say, I will not take that. I will stay home if I'm sick, but I will open my business. I will wear no mask, and I will live like a patriot, a free man, a risk taker, courageously allowing my body to defend itself the way God intended. America's dying. Fix it. This is God's coming, but it's time. And this is your truth ache. America was founded by people, regular old people, just regular old folks who wanted to be free and were willing to do whatever is necessary to get there. For those who are commenting about my look, by the way, just so I can let you know, with the headband and the mustache, I was in a movie that was shot in Albuquerque, New Mexico a few weeks ago, and so that was the look that I had to prepare for, to be in the movie that will come out this Christmas, supposedly. So I'll talk more about it, especially if it's going to actually come out this Christmas. But I told you this a long time ago. You've been abandoned by Washington, D.C. They are controlled now by the World Economic Forum, or at least enough people within our system are, who want to dismantle America. They simply believe America shouldn't be a superpower, shouldn't be a leader, shouldn't be able to have its privileges or what the things that it's earned, or the all of the attributes of this nation and oil. They want to destroy it. They don't want us to be able to be free to travel on our own. It's all masked in a true truth, the conspiracy saying that we're killing the earth, and the only way we can do that is we go back into the Middle Ages. And if you believe that, you're stupid. Literally. You cannot be educated. You do not understand truth. You cannot evaluate what's actually at stake. You're stupid. It's not an insult. It's a description of who you are. Get educated. Free yourself from this and join the peasant revolt. Join the mighty 10,000. Join the militia of the mind. Join being free American, especially on September 11th. Let's be united again. Let's do it. Let's actually care. Let's be willing to do whatever. The government bureaucrats control us. They are sold out completely and utterly philosophically. They want us dead. They don't care. Folks, it's real. It's not a conspiracy theory. We're in the middle of a civil war. And so far, the guns haven't come out other than when Black Lives Matter rioted and things along that ladder. They of course, have guns. They're leftist thugs, and they're allowed to go run roughshod in order to take over territory. It's a civil war. It's why they're allowing the borders to be wide open so people can come in here and take of our goods and our freedoms and our safeties. And, of course, eventually give them citizenship, believing that they'll suddenly vote for them, even though these people, if they were fleeing at all, are fleeing socialist countries because socialist countries are Marxist death traps. Nobody wants to live like that. Not if you aren't stupid. So I'm going to ask you to join. If you just want to give to my ministry in general, there is a donation for that as well. It's 501c3. You will get a tax break. I say as much taxes that you can keep for yourself and spend so you can afford groceries instead of giving it to a corrupt government, the better. As long as we have that option, that will be ended too eventually. But I felt like I wanted to talk about September 11th because it mattered, but I felt like it had so much more about America and where we are and what we could talk about and how we could try to find some kind of sense of balance as we move forward in trying to understand what the next phases of our lives are going to look like in America and if we can hang on to the Republic. So we're going to have here shortly Marsha Blackburn, a United States Senator. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that, now it's somewhat limited in the way she can speak because she is again in session and they have certain rules and regulations. And it's a short interview, but it is with the United States sitting senator. Pretty amazing. And one of the most conservative in the Senate. After the interview is over, there will be a closing comment by me, but then there's going to be one last tribute video that I did 2 years ago. I was performing at an event that was celebrating the remembrance of September 11th. And I was backstage, and I heard someone singing. It was beautiful, and I just had this sort of patriotic sense, and I got my phone out just like I did on the Truth Hate, and just started talking about my heart and what I felt and what I believed and what was important. And we're going to play that at the end of the interview with Marsha, so stick around for that. We're already going to be a little bit shorter than we normally are, but you're going to love this interview, and you're going to love seeing where we're coming. And I say we because I do believe you are my mighty 10,000. You are, in fact, the ones who created this, and that I'm just sort of a voice for you. We're doing this together as Americans. So, sign up. Please subscribe to my page, to Brad Stine Has Issues. I noticed, by the way, that my Brad Stine Has Issues doesn't end up on my Brad Stine Has Issues page. So we're trying to figure out why that isn't connecting properly. But please go and like and subscribe on my YouTube channel. Let's see if we can build that up, because that's going to get us more value. You need to share it. If you're part of the militia, you need to help me. I'm doing my part. Need you to help me. Please follow and like and share these clips from Facebook. Try to get your people to join. Get 10 people to join the Militia of the Mind and let me know, and I will give you a special gift. You have to let me know that you got 10 people to join. The battle's raging. September 11th shows us just how much is at stake and just how fragile life actually is. Folks, I don't care if you make it to 85 or 90. It's just a blink. Get to know God first. Jesus Christ is God. Sorry, that's how it works. You know him. He will do all the death and resurrection for you so you can know God. If you don't know him, you go to hell. That's how it works. I don't care if you don't like to hear it. I'm going to love you enough and be bold enough to let you know what's true so that perhaps you can spend eternity with the rest of us who are not any better than you. We are just humble enough to realize that God is going to have to do the work for us, because I'm just a filthy pilgrim trying to make a go of this thing, and it ain't easy. That's why the Bible says you're supposed to work out your salvation with fear and trembling, because it's hard. Join us. Get part of this group. You saw how great these people talk to each other. We're all part of a family. We're growing the best we can. and it's going to get us there. Thank you, son, for being part of this amazing podcast today. And next week, we'll have a whole new batch of guests, but let's launch it with the United States Senator Marsha Blackburn. But keep in mind, afterwards, there will be one final tribute video, so stick around for that. And this interview is only 15 minutes long, so you don't have much time left for the rest of the show. God bless you, and remember, PC free is liberty. Be it. Stand for it. Live for it. Speak what is true. Always speak what is true. Never apologize for the truth. If somebody says you're politically incorrect, just say thanks for the compliment. And again, folks, I'm just putting the woke back to sleep. That's what I do. Join me and enjoy this interview with our most prestigious guest heretofore, Senator Marsha Blackburn. See you next week. Folks, on Brad Stine Has Issues, this is God's Comic, and I always try to bring the most interesting people I can because everybody's more interesting than me. And I have the pleasure, the honor of speaking with a United States Senator, actually the first woman ever elected to a Senate seat in Tennessee. She represents me, and I am just grateful and honored she'd take some time to be with somebody so low budget as me. So God bless you. Welcome, Senator Blackburn. Thank you so much for being with me.
I'm delighted to join you and to be a part of your podcast.
Thank you.
I appreciate that you're focusing on some issues that are important to so many Tennesseans. Thank you.
Well, and frankly, the United States of America. You know, I'm going to get right to because I don't have a lot of time. My people who are Christians and conservatives, my comedy has represented that group of Americans for quite some time, unapologetically. And one thing that is happening in this nation from the people that I know, and they're probably your constituents as well, they feel no one's representing them anymore like a true conservative who cares about the Constitution, cares about what the original intent of what it meant to be an American. Of course, you can have different points of view. I'm not trying to, legislate one perspective, but to count on somebody representing us as true conservatives and those values is just few and far between. We don't know who to trust anymore. I think you're one of the handful that I actually trust is, in fact, a true conservative. But I'm not going to put words in your mouth. Do you see yourself as an actual conservative? And what does that mean to be in the Senate and to really be a conservative?
Yes, I do see myself as a true conservative. And a true conservative is someone who believes in our first principles, those founding principles of our nation, and someone who is going to fight to stand with the Bill of Rights.
Amen.
And make certain that our rights are protected. And, that's one of the things our founders in this country, when you talk about people that came here, those pilgrims, those settlers, why were they coming? Because they wanted to live their lives with the ability to freely worship.
Yes.
And they wanted to live their lives free from government control of every move that they made. Those are our constitution. You look at those founding documents, whether it is our Declaration of Independence, which is the aspirational document, and then the Constitution, which is that framework. Here is how we do it, and establishing how this country would be pulled together. That's what conservatives are. They're standing firmly on that. And you were talking about people feeling like they're not being heard, people that feel like they're not being represented. I say so many times, we have to realize that this nation has stayed free because we have always believed in robust, respectful, bipartisan debate. And where you have those points and counterpoints, and you have that discussion about how we approach issues, how we decide to work on those issues. And unfortunately, in the last few years, people have felt as if they were going to be canceled.
Yes.
If they spoke up.
And they are.
If they were being silenced, if they spoke up. And I talk to people every single day who have worried about that, who are fearful with what that brings into their lives, of their concerns they have for their children who are finishing college and going into the workplace and feel as if they cannot be true to the values that they've been reared with. Yes. And so you're talking about concerns that people do express. And as someone who's a policymaker, I always say, how do we make certain that all voices are heard and that people know that they can have that robust, respectful debate?
No, and I know that you have always in your career been very much about the rule of law, about the remembrance of the traditions and the foundations of our nation. And what's interesting is conservatives are truly the only ones left who believe that all people should have equal point of view access. Doesn't mean we're going to agree with each other, but we don't cancel people. We don't disinvite people from college campuses. Only the left does that. And so we're really dealing with a crisis. I don't know that's ever really been part of the American milieu before. Certainly we've had disagreements, but this idea that one party is literally canceling the rest of us, I don't know that there's ever been a precedent for that. I mean, I need you to help us. You're the only one that that really would know. You're really in the game. You really represent us. You're really in the Senate and have an opportunity to represent those of us who given you our vote to represent our voice. How have we reached a place in America, not only that we're not able to speak civilly, but we have this open border scenario where people are literally streaming across our nation, and a president isn't saying, well, we can't do that, and to act as though somehow we're asking too much to simply uphold the rule of law. How did we get to such a place in America where it feels like we have two different views of who we are as Americans? How did we get here?
And what it means to be an American.
Yes.
It's one of those things that people are constantly saying, why are they trying to change this? And I was talking with a veteran about the open border situation, and he's probably in his mid-50s, I would say. And he talked about how much it troubled him to see people coming here because they are trying to circumvent the system. They don't want to go through the process. They're coming focused on themselves, not focused on the country. And he was going on about how much his citizenship meant, how much it meant to him to be an American. It means so much that he put on that uniform and he fought. And how troubled he was that the border has remained open and that this administration is trying to find new ways to make illegal legal. Now they've got an app and they say, okay, if the cartel goes to the app and signs you in and says you're coming, you don't get counted in the illegal entry numbers. Now think about that. Instead of cleaning up the immigration system, what they're doing is finding a new way to open the border. And we need to know who's coming into this country. We need to know why they're coming. There were people from 176 different countries who came to this country illegally last year that presented themselves. We have hundreds of people that are on the terrorist watch list that have been apprehended. Hundreds of gang members, hundreds of criminal illegal aliens that are coming into the country. And as this border has been opened, what have we seen happen? The fentanyl crisis is just through the roof. We lost about 4,000 Tennesseans and around 100,000 last year nationwide to the drug overdoses. We know that crime and gangs are up in our cities and in our communities. We know that the cartels are present on U.S. soil. They are trafficking drugs. They are trafficking human beings. Sex trafficking, human trafficking is at an all-time high in this country, and it is a form of modern day slavery, and it needs to stop.
Well, and it's almost as though I'm talking about an insurrection. I mean, when you're bringing people in that have no vetting, that aren't here to participate in the American experience, but simply to take advantage of it, I believe that we're now at a place where you have to differentiate between citizens of the United States, people who utilize the freedoms given to them, but don't love us, don't feel like they have to even defend us anymore, and Americans, those who truly care about that. You know, we're going to have a huge election next year, and here we sit wondering if we can vote. I mean, who would have thought that would be a conversation in the United States? We don't know what's going on, and so you represent us, Senator. I mean, we have no other. We're just peasants. We're just the regular folks. Next year, there's going to be a lot of people trying to represent the Republican Party for president. Based on your experience, I'm not here to ask you who you're voting for. That's your business, and I'm sure you'll let us know down the road. But are there anybody with it that are going to be candidates that you can kind of assure us are who they say they are, that they're going to stand up for who they say and what they say they believe in, that we can believe are really not going to betray us, but live out the policies and the rhetoric that they're utilizing? Right. Are there anybody you trust? Help us.
Yes, and one of the things, let me back up just a bit on the issue of the open border. One of the things that has really concerned me and so many people that I talk with is that you've got Democrats that believe the border should remain open and that people that are illegally coming in the country ought to be able to vote.
Yes.
And this is something we need to stand against. Now, when it comes to selecting a president, of course, we need to have a Republican in the White House. And
a conservative. And a conservative.
Yeah. And a conservative. You would expect me to say that. I think also it's important to note I have endorsed President Donald Trump.
Okay.
And the reason I did was because when he did exactly what he said he was going to do when he campaigned. And he cut taxes, he increased jobs growth. You had more people working than we have ever had. Wages were growing at their fastest. You had every sector of our population, every sector of our economy was doing well. Our enemies knew that they were our enemies. Our friends knew that they were our friends. And that was not something that was up for debate.
Yeah.
It was solid. He and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo did a superb job working with our allies around the globe and holding them to account, which is something that is important to do. And our enemies feared us. You didn't see Putin or Xi Jinping out here trying to do some of the things that they're doing now, invading countries, trying to take land, pushing themselves with debt diplomacy and the Belt and Road Initiative. So, Brad, those are things that are important. You want a leader who is going to take that leadership seriously and say, we're here to make certain that you retain your rights and not take your rights and your freedom and hand that over to the federal government.
Amen. Well, that's so important. And I do want to personally invite you and your husband, Chuck. I have been able to spend some time with him, not with you, so I haven't had that privilege until this moment. But I, as a comic, we are trying to take back the entertainment arts for conservatives and Christians. We are putting on a Spirit of America at Belmont University Fisher Center on November 12th. I'd love to personally invite you and your husband, Chuck, to attend this, to see what Jonathan Cilifaro, a opera singer, immigrant from Italy who came legally, my God's comic comedian, and Gary Chapman will be singing. And it's basically just remembering who it in what it meant to be an American, to be patriotic, unapologetic. We have nothing to apologize for. We have a Marxist infiltration in our academies. They are creating dissidents of our children against this nation. We cannot survive like that. So this is our little way of trying to fight back and remember who we were and what it meant to be an American. I sure hope that you'll join us. And I will just say this. Thank you so much, really, for representing us, because we don't have any power. I mean, we're supposed to be the government as the citizens, but we feel abandoned. And so when people like you are out there standing for our values and actually fighting where it matters, is there any way we can help you and America moving forward as conservatives?
Yes, indeed. I would encourage everyone. They'll find me online at marshablackburn.com. I hope that they will stay in touch with us and make certain that they talk to their friends and neighbors and make certain that they're registered to vote.
Thank you so much. Well, I hope you'll come back on with me sometime when we have a little bit more time. You were very gracious. I don't want to use up your time and be, take that seriously. But thank you so much for giving me some time for what you stand for
Brad,
fighting for. God bless you, Senator Marsha Blackburn. Thank you so much.
You got it. Bye.
Bye.
So not only is that maybe the most significant interview I have done with a United States Senator, but it's also the shortest. You got to take what you can get, and it's my first time speaking to Senator Blackburn, and so they had a little 15-minute window. They're used to doing little clips. And so I took it. I said, yes, hopefully we can build a little relationship. You'll come on more, but perhaps she lives in this town that I live in, that she'll even come on, and maybe we can talk longer. And that's my hope. But at least you have seen how far we have come. And I say we because you are the ones that have helped make this all happen. In the guests that we've had and the way this program is allowing people who are interested in what we have to say to be participants. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope to get guests like that on longer, but again, still interesting that we were able to pull that off. I do want you to recall that based on what we've talked about today, and this is a shorter episode clearly than before because our guest was so short, the militia of the mind is real. We are trying to gather the peasants' revolt and people literally standing together and saying we aren't going to be pushed around anymore by a federal government who no longer represents us and is in fact rogue. This is where we're at. So instead of complaining about it, let's fight about it. Let's get out there and fight as free men and women in the United States. If you're interested in what we're doing and where we're going, join the Militia of the Mind. Be part of the first 10,000. That gives $3 a month to help us congregate and speak to each other, defend each other, and lift each other up in this trying time in the new revolution in America. Thank you for being with us. And I will end this September 11th special episode with a little moment I had a couple years ago on September 11th when I was performing. And I shot a video clip of me backstage about to go on and represent this great memory and never to forget it. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a little bit more sobering but important, and it does sum up everything that Brad Stine Has Issues is. Remember, PC, free is liberty. And if somebody says you're politically incorrect, thank them for the compliment. Remember as you watch this final clip, all I'm doing is putting the woke back to sleep. Join me. Enjoy. 20 years ago, September 11th, America was attacked in a way that we had never seen before by terrorists. And for one brief moment, Americans remembered who we were. That our DNA, though it came from different places and different times, and even folks were here who didn't choose to be, we were one. We cared about freedom. We cared about being together. We cared about fighting for a bigger, greater cause. We can never forget what happened that day.
And even more so, never forget that we all decided to pull together, to put our politics and our ideas and our philosophies and our prejudices and our confirmation bias aside and be an American. We identified as an American. We identified as freedom lovers. We identified as people who would be together and we would overcome. That is what America was. It's going away. Let's use this day, September 11th, 20 years later, to re-remind us. We have got to decide once and for all. I'll honor your point of view, your personal dignity and choices. You honor mine. But we must decide that division is going to destroy us. God bless you, America. It's God's coming, Brad Stine. I don't worship America, but I'm grateful for it. Never forget.